Okay, so let's see here. We have some kind of tree. Uh, we have a trunk, some branches. We actually have two kind of leaves and some flower things here. And we want to use OSL to kind of like control maybe a leaf variation, and then just in general manage the material IDs already applied to the tree. Because the tree obviously needs IDs. You can see here I probe ID 5 here. I can try the first one. That's the main trunk down here. I can check the second one, and as you can see here, 3 and 4 are actually leaves, because this model came in with an attempt to create a variation. The author of the model made two IDs for the leaves, but we're going to make a lot of IDs, as many as we want. So we actually need to take his fourth channel here. This is already selected, and we need to assign that to channel 3 instead. Um, so now if we select 3, we get all the leaves. Um, so that's just something to keep in mind. We could work with the other one as well and just pipe our randomizations to channel 3 and 4, but right now we optimized it, so we need to remember that there's nothing on 4. That means that whatever is on, nothing should be selected. And if we go to 5, it's these. We're going to move those to 4. Good. So we now removed 4 and moved the fifth slot to the fourth. Everything is okay now. Okay, so shade wise, um, let's pop into the material editor here. We have a physical material. Add this one to it. And we have some bark texture, some flower texture, and a leaf texture here, OSL nodes. So what is it that we want to do? Well, we kind of like need to probe the material IDs. And in the old days, you used a multi-sub material. We're only going to need to use a single material and then sort the IDs shade side. There are several advantages of doing that. It keeps shading hierarchies simpler, easier to manage. So keep that in mind. So okay, so we got our tree here, and we need to kill the diffuse, go into advanced, kill the reflection, and we need to pipe something into the emission color, like this. And what is it that we need to pipe into the emission color? Well, let's start with sourcing the IDs, the material IDs. So we're going to call this one mat ID. And we're going to source that into the emission color map, like this. And we need to get a loader, and that is the index up here. So we want to find the material ID. Let me move these out here and pick the index from the material ID, plop it in there. And let me see here. Let's get some better colors going. So this should be the trunk. This is the main trunk. This is the branches, and this was 1, 2, 3. This was the leaves, and this would be the flowers. So we go like this. This could be blue, like this, and this one give some kind of greenish color. We're not going to use it, so it doesn't matter. So let's see here. We need to initialize some kind of render session. Like this. I'm going to close this one down. There. Okay. So as you see here, we're now probing the material IDs. Comes out in perfect shape here. We can see the flowers. All the leaves are now blue. And so that's good. So we need to take this further so we can start to get some textures in there. So I would say the logic thing, as you can see here, we need a texture instead of this 0 here. We don't want red. As you can see here, we have the red here. So we want to pick a texture. That was the trunk. So we're going to take this the spark texture here. As you can see, the bark turns up here. We actually also need to use the same one for the branches here in this case. And then the next one would be the leaves. So now the leaves are on, and we then pick the flower component. Should turn out like this. Let's probe this a bit, see if everything is in order. Looks like it. Bark is fine. Like this. These leaves are working as expected, it looks like. And the flowers are also looking good. Okay. So we now have our tree here, but we have a very uniform expression on the leaves. We want some kind of variation in there. Okay. So going back to the shading hierarchy here. Let's look at it. But actually, it's just this one. We need to somehow split this one up into multiple versions and do something similar to this, where we only change the ID from material to an ID we generate, an element ID, and just for the leaves. Okay, so this is then the input 2, and we're going to, let's say, put in another one in here, and we put that to the second one, and the leaves should pick the top slot here, because there's no controller, so it doesn't know which leaves to give these colors yet. We're going to inject an index, and we're going to inject the texture here, and some grading nodes, and a couple of variants, and some kind of mechanism that can shuffle and scale these randomizations around. So let's see, how do we do that? Well, we need to first close this one down, because we need to generate this this channel here. So this process is a little bit slow in the UI when it's calculating it, but once we release it, it's going to be super fluid and snappy as it is here. So we want to add the data channel modifier, and you see there that it took a little bit of time, and you want to color elements. Just double click it and wait. It's going to take a little bit. And there we go. Close this one down. So and we want to address the vertex colors. And we want to output it to some random channel down here, 8 for example. And we want to make sure it's sitting on element. And you want to click these 3 and type in 100. It's going to calculate, but it's only while we're in this work process mode. It's going to be slow, not when we release it, like this. Okay, so if we actually go in here and look, you start to see that all the leaves and branches, for that sake, as you can see here, the main stem here, this has another color, another random color. So it's actually sampling the whole tree. That's fine, but we're going to filter out just the data for the leaves, and we're going to use that as a driver in the shader. Okay, so now this one is done. I can recommend you. Let's see here. Oh, it's there. I actually made one called Leaf ID here. So set up this one and just make a preset, so you can go here, click, and you don't have to wait on everything. It compiles the whole thing in one go, and you can then just click here and release it. And where's the tree? It's there. Alright. So let's try and start the render session. Let's move in here. Let me plop this one in here. Like this. Okay, so let's see here. So we have this new one. We're actually going to call this one element ID. And since we only probe it on the leaf channel, the third one, we're only going to get variation on the leaves here. So we need to insert the driver. I actually have one here called element color. It's actually identical to this one. We just call some kind of channel. We actually just we're calling the channel from the modifier. So that was 8, I think. We need to actually conform this, because this is a color, and this is a float. Or let's see here. Actually, I can go into the code here. The index, it's an integer. So actually we try and go from color to integer. That's not going to work. We need to do a little bit. We could either change the code in this one, or we could exit on a float from this one. I'll show you. So out here we're going to make f out equals out We pick the red channel. We need to generate the output. You don't need to do that. This, I'm just I'll show you like this. Up, I need a camera up there. Like this, you saw that now we have a float output. Oh, let's see here, something like this, and then we need to scale it. So we need to go to the float section, range, remapper, input range, index, and then we're going to scale the output up. Something like this. Let's see here if we can improve the visual a bit. Like this, I guess. So as you can see, we're now starting to get some variation, color variations in the leaves, based on this one. So basically, all these colors should be a stack of these based on this range here. So if I go down here, you can see now we sample a range from 0 to 1.6. That's somewhere between, if you think about it, an integer is like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are now sort of like stretching the range. So it's picking values between 0 and 2, which are this purple thing here and the yellow. So you should hopefully you should be able to see logic in that we have an input range 0 to 1, and we are sending out 0 to 1.62 in this case. So if we start to go a little bit above, so right here it should be impossible to get green in. Is green the third? Yes, green is the third, because we are right below 2. So still no green, still no green. Right there, we should theoretically be able to hit 1 green, because we're a little bit, we are 0.08 over 2. As you can see here, I can actually see one that samples green right here. So that's the logic about that. So let's say instead of purple, let's go here. Let's type in 1 here. So it's only sampling. What you could do, actually, let me show you this. We could actually inject an integer. Let's see if I can find this values, an integer. And this would be our number of slots to use. So we can call this activate. You can call it something else, and we want 1, and that's the output range end. So that means if we say 1 there, and we say 2, it should be these two, and 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now we're controlling this slot with an integer instead. You can also pull it. Just keep it in mind. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Let's now focus on getting some actual bitmap in there. And the advantage of doing this shade side instead of multi-sub materials is that if you end up with a lot of copies of your bitmap nodes, you need to make a lot of copy work for it to and quickly you get a big mess. But right now, this is the core of the setup. We can make this longer for more material IDs, And this bitmap here, we just need to go like this, and it should return. There's a texture on. You can see there's a texture on there. Textures is fine. Okay. And this is basically what where the ID thing comes in, because we can just take this one, and we can take the let's see here, tweak levels. We can take color. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger, so we have a variation of this one. I would say we should give it a little bit of hue change, just a little bit, and make it a little bit darker, like this, for example. And I'm just shift dragging. I'm going to make a new one here. This one is going to be very saturated. So, and we have 3 here now, and we plug this to the next slot, and this to the next slot, and you can keep on going and expanding here. That's no problem. So, but right now we are only sourcing this one. So if we put 2, it should sample these 2, and 3 down here. So let's see. So there, you can see now it's sampling 2 types. It's these 2. It's very predictable. And 3, we now have the 3rd one in there. So and that's it. That's how you do this. Easily create variations based on some kind of selective material ID in a larger construct. As you can see here, yeah, okay, it looks a little bit different than normal, but we handled everything in one material here. So let's say you want to create some bump map, something going to the bump slot, or the roughness slot up here. You would do the same thing. Basically, copy these 2 out. We don't need all these, this one and this one. So you only need to port 2 nodes out, and you can source the same image. And I mean, for some kind of effect here, we can go like this. We can crush the mids down here, something like this, and then we start to get some kind of path we can use for something, which then goes into the specular. So we need to move that one up. These guys are our textures, like this, and we can start to make a new chain here. I would actually go downwards since diffuse is in top, and then go out here. So that's how you go about that. Have fun.